Hello everybody and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast episode number 102. Hello Croeso I podcast Shreve, Can't I Die? My name is Mr. Gareth Evans and joining me today is Mr. Henry. I hope my camera's working today. Cooper!
I mean, you saying, it sounded like the word die, and immediately my first thought went to, my camera's going to fucking die. But it just didn't bother recording any of the first half. Save for about 3 seconds at the beginning, just in its own little file on its own, and then just shat the bed, really. But
people just get frustrated.
What can you do?
Not being able to see your beautiful face, Henry. They're all like,
we've got a number of comments about
it,
which is
hilarious.
I've got to look
at this ugly bastard. This ugly bastard I've got to look at. Where are you? Where's your face?
Tell you what, it fucked up the export as well, because I think I put the text up saying my camera was broken, and then like a blur or something. It really fucked up the export because there was so much extra data going on, and Final Cut got a bit confused, so I had to do a few tricks to get around it.
Well, what I want you to do next time is just put a montage, just take some pictures of yourself, just like doing some like poses and stuff. That's it. Just to keep. I mean, that's the thumbnail search for this week already. Yep. But just to keep people interested, I mean, just leaving text on there is a bit bland. We'd at least want to see your beautiful face.
I'm of the opinion it's a podcast. We're cheating it anyway by making it a video podcast. It's supposed to be audio only.
Yeah, that's true. But for the people who do want to look at faces, when they've only got mine to look at, you're leaving them short there, Henry.
Well, if taking a series of pics is an incentive to make sure my camera works, then it's definitely a good one.
Yeah, all tasteful pics, obviously. Okay, so on today's podcast, we've got a slew of topics to be discussing. Ubisoft moving to free-to-play, just a short discussion on that. Sony is working on over 25 PS5 games and half of them new IPs. That's exciting news for PlayStation owners, if you manage to get a PlayStation 5, that is. Metal Sharks quiz of the week after that, Discord questions, triggered fanboy comment, other YouTube comments, and then Bad Dodger good week to round off. That is the running order. But first up, the opening. Faff, Henry, what you been up to?
It's not a lot of faff, really. Fuck all. Been going on. All quiet on the Western Front. I think we made that exact reference last week, actually.
Yeah, I said that exact same thing. There's not a lot going on, is there? It's we have got E3 coming up in next month after, whatever E3 is going to be. This, I mean,
it'll be E3 season, so there'll be the actual E3, then all of the other streams and whatnot, which should be cool. At least it'll be something to talk about, and hopefully we'll get some news about things.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know what to hope for.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it'll give us something to chew over. So that'll be interesting. Not that many games coming out. We've got the Mass Effect Legacy, whatever it is, tomorrow as a time of recording. Yep. So that that'll be interesting. Are you considering picking that up?
Yeah, I want to get it, but it's not something I'm like leaping out of my seat to get, because I played the first two
recently, though, right?
Yeah, I played the first two quite recently, and then I haven't hit the third one because I was like, well, I'll just wait and get the special legendary edition. Is that it? I think it's the legendary edition. Yeah, I'll just wait and get that. So I'm not like super itching to get it, but I will get it for sure at some point.
I played the second and the third. I haven't played the first one, so it's probably a good time for me to experience that, because a lot of people say it's the best. So
yeah, it's arguably. I mean, the gameplay was its biggest downside from my limited experience of just playing the first two. But I thought the story was definitely the best, because the second one, it's a bit more, for lack of a better term, like video gamey. It's go here, recruit this hero, go here, recruit this hero, and then you all come together for your big showdown. Whereas the first one's more like a narrative that you actually follow.
Old BioWare, which was actually good.
Hard to believe looking at them now, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Ubisoft is making free-to-play games. Shock horror, Ubisoft is finally reaching its final form and has entered its cocoon stage and will just emerge into this AAA gaming publisher, which we all knew was going to happen. Like, how is this a shock to anyone? Free-to-play games is just a way to recurring monetization. This term that was coined years and years ago. Ubisoft, it's surprising me how long it's taken them to realize that everyone else has done it. Like EA's done it, Activision's done it. I mean, Epic Games led the way with Fortnite. But now they can make money indefinitely on a game. Oh my God, sign me up. Sign me up. This is how I don't know. It's surprising. A lot certain reaction over there. I should jump into what the news is. Like, obviously, we covered it in the briefly.
I covered
week.
part of it in the Daily Triple.
So it was the news comes from an earnings call this week where Ubisoft announced a shift in focus towards more free-to-play games, and Chief Executive Igamo stated the following: "It is now time to come up with high-quality free-to-play games across all our biggest franchises, across all platforms, but of course, it will take time." And that led a lot of people to jump to conclusions that maybe, we won't be getting all the same games as we normally get. We won't get the yearly Assassin's Creed or biannually, whatever they do these days. We don't get the Ghost Recon games and the Division games, whatever Ubisoft usually generate. They're all going to be down the pan now, apparently. But that was a misinterpretation, which they later clarified and come out and said, a spokesperson said the following: "Our intention is to deliver a diverse lineup of games that players will love across all platforms. We are excited to be investing more in free-to-play experiences. However, we want to clarify that this does not mean reducing our AAA offering. Our aim is to continue to deliver premium experiences to players such as Far Cry 6, Rainbow Six Quarantine, Riders Republic, and Skull and Bones, to name a few, while also expanding our free-to-play portfolio and strengthening our brands to reach even more players." So
they always bring up Skull and Bones when they're like, our big plans for the future for 2018 to 2019 is going to be Skull and Bones, and then 2019 rolls and our plans for 2019 to 2020 is going to be Skull and Bones, and then yet again they push it. It wasn't mentioned. It had two mentions in the document that I read, because there was the call, then there's like supplementary report thing that they basically spoke through on the call. It mentioned Skull and Bones twice. Once was to say it's part of our expanding portfolio of new games, and then the second part was it's not coming until 2022 2023, and that was it, nothing else.
I mean, specifically on Skull and Bones, people are saying, well, this obviously they're delaying it this time just to make it this freemium game, whereas before they maybe would have charged for it. Now they're having to adapt it because of this new focus on free-to-play games. Not sure how much of that's true, whether there'll still be a price up front for the game, but we don't know yet.
I think the only thing we can say about Skull and Bones is we don't know anything about it. Everything we have seen, including some reasonable amount of gameplay. I think there's about 20 minutes of gameplay out there, but none of that's the case anymore, because the game has been internally changed and rebooted a bunch of times. So we know literally nothing other than it's allegedly a pirate game and it's called Skull and Bones. Everything else is rumor, or was once true but probably isn't anymore.
So in context of what this means for the future of games, obviously they said our premium games will always be there, but we're getting additional games now, like extra. This is extra for you people. But if you've ever played a Ubisoft game, or more recent Ubisoft games, you know that it's mainly about monetization, right? You've paid for the game outright, you pay for the purchase, and then there's additional content in there in terms of microtransaction, XP boosters, whatever trash they throw in, expansions and all that. So it's in a world where the lines are being blurred in monetization. Premium games are usually you pay up front, you get the game. Not like that anymore, because freemium games are the free ones that you get to. There's no barrier to entry, but there's additional monetization in there, aka Fortnite. So Ubisoft for so long of blurring these lines. You pay up front and there's extra monetization in there. People aren't happy with that, and it's shown in the recent games like Breakpoint was panned for monetization. We've talked about Assassin's Creed and how recently they've just it makes me not want to buy these games from Ubisoft, because I know that I'm gonna have to pay up front and then I'm gonna have to pay extra for the best experience because they blow up the game or whatever.
Yep.
But that's just a few examples. Watch Dogs Legion was a recent game again. Premium game with freemium economies just crammed in there. However, they've announced one of their first freemium games will have no barrier to entry in terms of price point, which is Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland. So we don't know much about that. It's going to come in this next year or something. So the Division Battle Royale, Henry, fancy a game?
I mean, the Division, it looks pretty, but beyond that, doesn't do much else as far as I'm concerned. But to be fair, the move into free-to-play, it makes sense from a business perspective. And they're saying that the AAA, the volume of traditional AAA games with, a price tag will stay the same. I don't believe that. They're going to stay somewhat, but they cannot stay the same, keep the same momentum if they're also doing a bunch of free-to-play games. You don't have that many resources. You've got the same amount of resources, and then you're adding more projects to come from those resources. So that's never going to work. But they'll stick around for a while. Well,
on that point though, I just want to venture this possibility, because I know maybe they'll do this, maybe they won't, but they've got a finite amount of resources in terms of manpower to work on games. Maybe they staff up and they've got extra. They get extra studios to work on these extra freemium games, whatever. However, with the games, the premium games, which they currently kind of operate as a live service game, although you pay for them and then there's a service afterwards. Maybe they just produce a regular single player game without the live service, and then additionally they do the live service freemium games, which would mean that you don't have to develop the single player or the standalone games as much, so they'll free up some resources. So that means you don't have to put microtransactions in the original games, and then it's a win-win for everyone. You get a game that you pay for, no additional monetization, perfect. And I'm a positive thinker. I like to think that the good outcomes are possible, even though this is Ubisoft, even though this is the gaming industry, and even though they probably never do this because they're leaving money on the table. But one can dream, right?
It's a very pretty dream, but I don't believe that either of us are naive enough to believe that it will manifest into reality.
Damn it.
I mean, there is a chance. There is a chance, because EA, who are, perhaps the biggest of the baddies in the games industry, they managed to do it with Jedi Fallen Order. They said no microtransactions, and it stayed no microtransactions. That game is out now, and it's the exact same thing as it was when it launched. There's been no extra stuff. Well, there's been like a challenge mode added, and that was all for free. So these companies can do it. It is possible to break the cycle of needless monetization every time. I just don't believe it's going to happen. Well, I'd love it too, but I've been burned too many times.
It is wishful thinking, that's for sure. But it would ease the strain of reviews. That's a bad way to term it, but Breakpoint, for example, was panned because of how they're trying to make it a live service game. All this loot, which doesn't mean anything. It's just different. A few different numbers, and you just pick up so many different. It's like a multiplayer game in a single player kind of shell, and it's trying to force that monetization in so they can make the most money off this game, which is what detracted ultimately from the critics and reviewers' enjoyment of it. So hopefully, I know it's probably a vain hope, but hopefully this will allow them to still monetize games to the max, which is the freemium ones, but allow them to just focus a little bit more on the mechanics of the single-player games,
hopefully,
without having to flesh it out with all that bullshit games as a service.
Or at least make an Assassin's Creed game that's not just bloated to shit. You can keep all of your generic shit. Just chop out 10 hours of the fluff that's there for no reason and get rid of the XP boosters. It should be fine. But the question of, would you play one of these Ubisoft games if it was a free-to-play one? Even then, probably not, if I'm honest, for most of them anyway. I'd play an Assassin's Creed because I'm quite like the series, or at least I have done, at least back in the day. But the Division does nothing for me. So if it was free, I just know it's not my kind of game. It's a grindy, multiplayer, loot-based thing, and none of those words tick any boxes for me. And if it's free to play, it's just going to be even more grindy, because that's just how they work.
No, that's true. There's an important distinction to make here. from my experience playing the Division, I didn't have that much fun playing it single player. However, when I jumped on Division 2, that is, when I jumped on with some players on the Discord from the supporters, we had actually a decent time. The problem was that was like a free weekend or something, and then when the paywall clicked back in, it's like, I don't really want to pay for this game. I would probably play it more often with the Discord members if it was free, however, because the point of it then is you're having fun with your mates. You don't have to spend anything on it.
I mean, I suppose I'll never say never. I'd perhaps play it for a little bit, especially, like you say, in a co-op multiplayer setting with friends, like people you know. But multiplayer games never hold me, and I guess they're just not my games. I have no qualms about saying it's not for me. It's not my vibe, you know. Yeah. So like I'd play for a little bit, but I would still stop after like maybe a couple of games. If it was even that fun in the first place, like even if it's the most fun multiplayer game, it just doesn't grip me because what am I doing? Like, why am I playing? Am I playing just to play? Because playing with your friends is all well and good, but I like to have something to strive towards, and a lot of multiplayer games, the something is like a new unlock, or like a level up, or a skin, or a gun, or something, but that's not anything for me. If they could, multiplayer and story games, I do believe there is a world where they can coexist and combine real nicely. I'm just yet to see it properly manifest in a way that works for me anyway.
Yeah, and hopefully...
And I don't hate multiplayer games, I just can't stick with them for a long time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The classical Ubisoft formula of generating games is just use all the ideas in your repertoire, all the technology, all the gameplay features, and throw them all in the one game. No matter whether it's Assassin's Creed game or a Division game or whatever, just throw all the ideas you've got in one game. However, hopefully what this is indicative of, or this will allow them to do, is just separate. Like, single player game doesn't have to have a multiplayer game a part of it, and so if you want a single player experience, you can have that core experience and don't have to worry about like additional monetization or multiplayer. And that's one thing I hate about Ubisoft games is like the forced multiplayer. I'm playing Watch Dogs or whatever. Oh, someone has joined your session, has just whizzed past you on a motorbike. Are you going to chase them? Or it's like, fuck off out my game. I'm playing a single player game here. Fuck off my computer. How are you in my computer now? Fuck off. That's always my reaction. And again, wishful thinking. I hope they cut that shit out and just multiplayer game is a multiplayer game, a single player game is a fucking single player game.
Yeah, and Ubisoft does have good parts of games and some like half good games, but then it's undercut by some other bullshit. So there is potential there. It's not like they've always been awful. Like the fundamentals of the game, the fundamentals are there. In fact, the fundamentals are in virtually every single one of their games, because it's like, oh, you like your drone in Ghost Recon? We're now going to put a drone in Assassin's Creed, and it's going to handle exactly the same way. Yeah. Although, one thing I still don't understand is the unique selling point of Assassin's Creed used to be partially stealth, but that's gone out the window. It's now one of the only things it does that no one other game really does is the climbing and the sort of free-running stuff. So why don't they take that? This is why I'm confused. Why haven't they taken that and put the Division with the free climbing mechanics? Because it's perfect for stealth. Henry. That's why it's there. I mean, Assassin's Creed was cool because you could climb anywhere. You could like scope your target from rooftops. They had no idea where you are. But why can't you just do that again now? I mean, I know the answer. It's because you can just monetize it without doing that and make even more money. But there's a bit of my brain where, like, for this new Star Wars game that Massive are working on, give me, like, I can climb up a building and then I've got my blaster and I'm going to shoot an Imperial or something. I just want it. I want it to be good. I want Ubisoft to be good, but I do not believe for a moment that it's going to happen.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm ever hopeful that these companies will maybe put something good. I don't know. I'm feeling positive about it. I'm stupid. I realise that. You can shoot me down, shoot my arguments down, whichever way you want. I know. I'm just hopeful. I like to see the best in people, and let's just hope this is a change. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they will.
It's just every time I give them a chance, I'm just let down again.
a lot of people love Ubisoft and Ubisoft games.
They do, evidently.
So I mean,
Valhalla's still in the charts.
This can't be bad news for everyone. Lowering the price to entry will impact a lot of people. For the people who can't afford the $60 plus entry point these days for games to play with their friends and this and that. Like free to play games are a valuable resource, because free to play games can be done well. Like look at Warframe, for example, is always held up as the gold standard and has been for years. Monetization can be done right. Whether Ubisoft do it right or not, probably doubtful. However, there are a place for these games now, and I think games like Warframe have proved that. I
think going free to play in addition to the AAA stuff is a good move, because if there's any company out there which has so many AAA games that they can afford to cut out 1 or 2 a year, it's bloody Ubisoft. They can take down their output just a smidge and then replace it with some free to play stuff, because realistically they're going to release a bunch of them. I imagine like back to back, bang out loads of free to play stuff all at once, and then some of them will get picked up, some of them will just fall flat, and then they're just going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And like, oh, there's Division Heartland. It launches, maybe people don't like it. All right, scrap that. We'll do the Ghost Recon version. Oh, maybe people like that one a little bit more, so they'll keep on with that one. And it's a reasonable strategy. I can see it working for them, certainly as a money-making scheme. Whether or not those games are good, that remains to be seen. And whether or not I will play them, because I generally don't like Ubisoft games, remains to be seen. I want to be hopeful. I want to want things to be better.
At the very least, this is good news for some people, right? And it might not be me, it may not be you, but there's people out there thinking, yes, maybe I get to play Assassin's Creed this year. Absolutely. I couldn't afford it. Maybe I get to play an Assassin's Creed game this year, or the
Division.
Especially
as games are going up in price, especially on PlayStation, they're going to be like $70 or something.
So there you have it. These are our thoughts on the Ubisoft thing. It's an interesting discussion. Wait and see. Basically, like everything else, we'll wait and see how they implement it. But we don't hold out a lot of hope. Although, I don't know. There's something inside me that says maybe they'll do the right thing. And I'll probably eat those words at some point in the future. But
there's a bigger thing inside of me saying they'll definitely do the wrong thing.
There you have it. Okay, move on to the next story, which is... So, PlayStation fans, get excited. Sony is working on 12 to 13 new IPs. What? Can you Adam and Eve it? So this is from a article by Wired, and it's a bit I don't know what the word is, flimsy maybe, or wishy-washy sort of. It's not like a news thing. It's titled, the PlayStation 5 is starting to look like the revolution it promised. But I don't think it makes that argument particularly well. But just some quick facts to get off the case. The PS5, despite the meme of it being virtually impossible to get hold of, it has done very well. Perhaps not good as well as it could have if they didn't have these shortages. So it launched on November 12th or 19th worldwide. So between then and March 31st, it sold 7.8 million units, making it the fastest selling console in US history. But the big thing for me is, where the hell are the games? At the moment, you've got Demon's Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Destruction All-Stars, Sackboy, and Astro's Playroom. Some of those you can still play on PS4 anyway, so it's a bit of a question mark of if they should really be classed as PS5 games. And Demon's Souls is a remake of an older game. Then they just brought out Returnal, which kind of shook things up a little bit. People quite like it. Ratchet & Clank is meant to be coming next month. And then supposedly this year we're getting God of War and Horizon Forbidden West. But I've said it 100 times. I have my doubts about either of those. But they are starting to pick up a little bit of momentum very slowly, which is, I mean, it's to be expected. It's the start of a generation, isn't it? But so this information about 25 new games being developed by Sony, about half of which are going to be new IPs. This is from former Guerrilla Games boss and current head of Sony Worldwide Studios, Herman Hulst. I really like Herman Hulst. I think he's, like, when you watch interviews and stuff with him, he just seems he's a good person to listen to speak. You know, some people are really like, there's just nothing coming out of them when they're speaking, but he's quite like us, you mean?
Personable. Yeah. So according to him, these 25 games are coming, and nearly half of them are new IPs. So that's not the quote that they say he said this. And then the actual quote is, which he kind of elaborated on, but not really. There's an incredible amount of variety originating from different regions, and there's going to be big, small, different genres. But other than that, he doesn't really say anything else. So the easy headline, which I'm sure we're going to put on the video for this, and all of the media outlets are covered, is Sony working on 25 new games, half of which are new IPs. That's basically the extent of the information on it.
Yeah.
It kind of just ends there. But it's worth discussing, though. There's some talking points. So this sounds great. I mean, more games. Sony has quite a good track record, certainly better than Ubisoft, at least in my opinion. I generally much prefer the Sony games to the Ubisoft games. So, but maybe you feel differently. They have faced a lot of criticism, though, for pretty much making the same game kind of every time. A lot of them are, almost all of the big ones, are third-person, cinematic, narrative-driven action-adventure titles with a few little vague RPG things here and there. And this response from Herman Hulst really seems to me like a kind of a response to the Bloomberg article from a few weeks ago, which basically slammed Sony's stance on exclusives and blockbuster games specifically, and how it doesn't really want to fuck around with smaller, more experimental indie projects, and will only do surefire hits like your Last of Us is, or something.
Yeah.
Anything made by Naughty Dog really is going to make money. And I do think there is some truth to the idea that all of Sony's games are the same. I mean, when was the last time they did a first-person shooter or a strategy game or anything of a genre other than third-person action-adventure to that extent? Then along comes Returnal, which has spiced things up nicely, because that's a third-person action-adventure game, but it's like a bullet hell shooter, and the narrative is non-linear. There's a bunch of like weird horror elements. I've not played it yet, just to clarify, but it's meant to be quite good. It's meant to be bloody hard, and there's the debate about that as well going on. So I'd love to see Sony experiment more with doing games, and if Herman Hulst is to be believed, that is the case, but we just have to wait and see, because we have no idea. Like, there's not a lot to this statement about 25 games coming, but there's just nothing else from it, which is it's frustrating, because you see all the headlines like, oh cool, and anything more, and I mean, God forbid there be a specific game mentioned in that 25 list, but nope, that's all the elaboration you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Although the article does half go on to mention indie projects, but I think this is really inaccurate and a bit presumptuous. So they kind of suggest that among these 25, there's a few indies, including one from Haven Studios, which is the new studio set up by Jade Raymond, who is
formerly Stadia.
She's been sort of everywhere.
She's been at EA and then Stadia and jumped that sinking ship. No.
Yeah, she left that as soon as it was going to hell. But so this is a new studio that is independent. It's not owned by Sony, but they've secured funding from Sony to make whatever their game is, but we know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Then there's another one, they mentioned Firewalk Studios, but I don't really know what it is they're doing at the moment. But technically, these are independent, but the term indie doesn't really mean that anymore. It's more of it's a sense of scale and production value these days. And I don't think it's fair to necessarily term these games as indie games when we don't know anything about them. And it also name drops Kena, I've heard it pronounced every which way, Bridge of Spirits, which exactly highlights my point, because this is one of my most anticipated games. I think it looks really, really good, but I wouldn't call it indie. You know, it's one of it's that awkward mid-level, because AAA can range from your Call of Duties, and then you've got indie, which can be some dumb shit asset flip that's on Steam, which anyone can upload and anyone can make. And then you've got games like Hades or Stardew Valley, both which are massively successful indie games, but even in that space, they're wildly different in their development. Hades is, it's a roguelike kind of isometric game, which generally are indies, but it's still got quite a high budget, it's fully voiced, it's got really, really nice visuals. But then Stardew Valley is literally developed by one guy, it's pixel art, it's got this real 8-bit charm to it. So they're totally different ends of even just the indie spectrum. So I think saying something like, oh, they're Sony working on indies too, I'm like, but are they? Because what does that mean to you? I don't think that's the case. If they come out with like a pixel platformer, then I'll be like, okay, it's kind of an indie thing. Yeah. Why not?
And I mean, the definition of indie is independent, right? And how can Sony, the big publisher, work on an independent when obviously
they're
they
not
can't
publishing it independently?
Exactly, because they by association.
Although, but even
That
on
makes
that
it not
argument,
indie.
if you want to play the semantics game, you could say a first-party game like God of War or Horizon, that's indie because Sony built it themselves and published it themselves. They're just the biggest one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, so it's not quite the same. So I think that's a bit of an odd thing to say. I mean, perhaps this journalist knows more than I do. I would assume they do. He's probably throughout the article. There's a few quotes from different Sony people, like Herman Holst, Jim Ryan, who's the big boss at Sony, and Mark Cerny, who is the brains behind the PS5 console. So a few little anecdotal quotes from them. So he's been chatting away to people, but this article doesn't get. It's not a lot in the way of information. The whole kind of thrust of it is that the PS5 revolution that's about to happen with the games industry is about to happen with all these 25 games, but we don't know what any of them are.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a nothing piece to me anyway. It's quite well written. It's a nice read. It's very readable and shit, but there's not. You don't come away with anything.
Yeah,
but there were. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's slightly annoying. If you've been wanting to get hold of a PlayStation 5, they're talking about. There was an article this week, I think you covered it, that they're expecting demand to be high, and they're probably going to be a sort of shortage until next year, even if you want a PlayStation 5 now. They sold 7.8 million, fastest selling console in the US history. That's because there's more scalpers around than there ever have been, and we can't. No, nobody who wants a PlayStation 5 can get their hands on one, and they're spiting the successes of it, and the only people who are really cheering are the scalpers. It's still a huge problem. They're not addressing it. It's a bit. They've got all these games coming up. They don't need to announce games right now. I mean, they've got 30 new IPs and another bunch of loads of games coming out. If they're selling the consoles and they're selling every single unit that they create at the moment, that's all they're worried about.
Yeah.
And
they don't need to do anything right now, really.
And touching on the strategy for making games, the reason we talked about it before, but single player games are what we like, right? We enjoy our single player experiences.
Yes.
Sony are renowned for making those single player experiences, making our dreams come true in those respects. So, it's a great place to be playing. The reason that they do generate these, we say they're generic, all these third person action games come from Sony. They've got this captured audience, the captive audience. They know what their fans like, and this is what we like as if we're playing on PlayStation.
And to be fair to them, same with Ubisoft. We don't like that way of making games, all those types of games, but people do, and they are just giving it to them. So
these first party exclusive single player games, which are literally system sellers. This is why the PlayStation 5 demand is so high. This is why people are really pissed off because they can't get hold of them. It's because they know that Sony are going to deliver in that respect. These 25 games that they're working on, a lot of them are going to be system sellers. Hopefully, they don't have a lot out now. You've mentioned that already, but
yeah.
You can guarantee the next God of War is going to be in demand. The next Horizon Zero Dawn. If you played the previous one, you're going to want to be playing the next one. Whatever they come up with in the Spider-Man, whatever. You know that they're going to deliver in terms of games, first-party exclusives. That's why the demand is so high, and that's why the PlayStation 5 is doing so well, according to them.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of the PS5 doing well, it's doing kind of a lot better than I thought. Apparently, according to this Wired article and him speaking to Sony people, more people are playing games at the moment, which that isn't really a shock, but there's some other stats afterwards. So apparently there's an 81% increase in the amount of time users are spending on their PS5s versus the PS4 for the same window. So 81% more people are playing their PS5 in 2020 to 2021 compared with the PS4, which is 2013 to 2014. Now, that's largely because the games industry is bigger than it was then. It continues to grow and grow and grow. It's much more mainstream than it ever was. And people are locked inside, which is, that shouldn't really come as a surprise. But also the PS5, despite having all of these supply shortages, which is due to specific components that they physically can't get hold of at the moment because of factories and pandemic problems and all that sort of stuff. The PS5 is off to a bigger start than the PS4 and has sold 11% more units in this, 6 months or whatever. Despite, at least in my opinion, having very little to offer that you can't currently play elsewhere. But again, that's just me. There's a couple of games that people really like, and you can play newer games just better on it, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think
there's nothing.
I think glossing over that point, it may be doing it a disservice.
Yeah.
But the fact that this hardware is so much of an upgrade from the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 is years and years old. You can play your perhaps older games, but at 60 frames a second and 4K. Yeah. That is, you can't undervalue that.
Nope.
I mean,
how
many people are just sick of playing? Either you choose 1080p or you choose 60 frames per second. You can't do both. You choose 4K or you choose 60 frames per second. Can't do both. It's like having that gameplay experience now. It's just old. Like, give me the fastest, give me the newest, give me the prettiest. That's what people want, and that's what they get in the PlayStation 5, regardless of how many games are on the platform.
Exactly. Yeah, that means more to a lot more people. And interestingly, again, cross-platform titles like your Assassin's Creeds and your Call of Duties and whatever, they are apparently selling more copies on PS5 than they are on Xbox Series X/Series S. Which, again, it's one of those where it's a bit of a shock, but at the same time, Sony went into this generation with so much goodwill, and Xbox their whole brand at the moment doesn't seem that fussed about game sales and unit sales of the system compared to what it used to be. So I'm sure Microsoft doesn't really care that much about losing out on unit sales to Sony, because its Game Pass is its big thing now. That's its driving force going forward. But in terms of just kind of wrap up, in terms of the PS5 shortages and whatnot, I definitely believe that they're ready to go with more, like now, but they're waiting for the right moment. Because so E3 season is coming up, like we said, and Sony will do something. Presumably, we're going to get a bit more information about Horizon and God of War, because they are supposed to be coming this year. At the very least, I expect to get a revised release date for either of them, saying 2022. But whenever that information comes out, which would probably be in the next 6 weeks or so, then they'll drop the new PS5 like swarm, the next bulk of units, because it will spike interest. The search engine terms for Horizon Zero Dawn pre-order or whatever will go through the roof, even if it doesn't have a release date, and then that will automatically drive sales of the PS5. So they're definitely not going to come out with anything anytime soon, like in the next week or so. But when summer kicks off and all of these new reveals are coming out, that's when you say, oh, well, Horizon Zero Dawn's coming out December 15th, 2021, and also here's a nice shiny PS5 that's available right now for about 4 seconds if you get there quick enough.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe they'll be doing some Horizon Zero Dawn themed PS5s or whatnot. Who knows? They probably will.
I mean, it is frustrating to think about the amount of PlayStation 5s that aren't available, that are in demand. But at the same time, I think it's just testament to how well they did last generation with all the knockout games that they produced on the PlayStation 4. The demand is so high. People know what they're getting from a first-party exclusive PlayStation game. That's why the demand is so high, and they're reaping the rewards and the benefits. So yeah, some people are having to pay double the price for a PlayStation 5 right now because scalpers, and they haven't done enough to curtail the scalpers, and they should be doing more. Let's put it that way. But still, Sony, their strategy of producing these single player games and throwing a lot of money in these experiences that we all love, it's paying off, and I think that it's just testament to them. They've done really well, and it looks like that going into the future. You're saying that 11% more units has been sold with PlayStation 5 versus the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 is second most biggest selling console of all time. So that stands the PlayStation 5 in good stead, that's for sure. And it wouldn't be surprising if if the PlayStation 5 breaks most, if not all, records. Yeah.
Hopefully, when E3 rolls around, we'll learn a bit more about at least a couple of these 25 games, maybe even some of these new IPs. But
for sure, yeah.
25 is such a nice number. Things will change. A couple of them might get cancelled. A couple of new ones might pop up in this, behind the scenes that we don't know about. But hearing that 25 Sony games are coming at some point for the PS5 within its lifespan, that's great news. That's something to be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So there you have it. Let's move on to our next segment in this podcast, which is the community segment. And the community of this podcast on our channel on YouTube is supported by the supporters over on patreon.com/prettygoodgame. And if you do want to support us and help us support us while we bring this content to YouTube and the podcast, whatever, head over there and sign up for as little as $1 a month. You get early access to the podcast. You get access to the members only section on the Discord. You get to ask us questions on the podcast and a whole lot more. So head over there. It really does make a difference. Let's jump into the questions for this week. The first one's a quiz, and it's a quiz for you. This is Metal Shark's Quiz of the Week. As always, we thank Metal Shark for his contribution and his effort that he goes to. It can't be easy. All this time he puts into these quizzes every single week. I don't know. My heart's off to you, dude.
I think you're a sadistic bastard and you enjoy tormenting us.
Yeah, and on that note, Henry, you're the subject of the torment this week, and Metal Shark says, again, no specialist subject was suggested, so one has been chosen. Cowardice. In each round, match the characters to their description. So it's a bit like the hairdos one from a couple of weeks ago. You've got a multiple choice thing.
Yeah. So I like the thematic kind of resonance of this, because I was too cowardly to pick my own specialist subject. So the specialist subject in itself is cowardice, and characters who are cowardly.
There you go. It's on the nose. So this is round one, Henry. And the characters you got to choose from are as follows. Number 1, Jim Chapman from Resident Evil Outbreak. And number 2, Dr. Hal Octagon Emmerich from Metal Gear Solid, or Emmerich. And the descriptions, you got 3 to choose from to match to those characters. A, special move is to play dead. B, doesn't pick specialist subjects in gaming quizzes. I wonder who's referencing there. Me. And C, wets themselves sometimes more than once per cutscene.
Well,
as you're not one of the characters, and
yeah. I don't know who Jim Chapman is because I've not played Resident Evil Outbreak, so I believe his description is a special move is to play dead. And Otacon, not Octagon,
is that what I said?
That's what you said. Otacon, he pisses himself when he meets Snake, and Snake has a big fight with a cyborg robot man. And to be fair, I would probably piss myself too. So yeah, 1 is with A, and then 2 is with C.
Are you sure that
I am?
Yeah, you'll be. I was going to say, you're sure Jim Chapman isn't the one who doesn't pick specialist subjects in gaming quizzes? But no,
maybe
you're right. 1A, so Jim Chapman, special move is to play dead, and 2C, which is Dr. Hal Otacon wets themselves sometimes once per cutscene, sometimes more than once per cutscene. Sorry. Right. Well done. 2 from 2 so far. On to round number 2. And the characters to choose from are as follows. You've got 3 this time. So Patches from Demon Souls / Dark Souls. You've got Dr. Robotnik from Sonic. And you've got Host of the Nightmare from Bloodborne. And the descriptions to match are as follows. A, traps animals in machinery to turn them into metallic foes. B, tries to strap/kill you, then want to be friends. Or C, runs away continually, and when cornered, one hit kills you.
Am I allowed to Google image search? Not descriptions, none of that. I just want to know which... I have played Bloodborne, so I might have fought this boss, but some bosses are optional. Can I Google what the Host of the Nightmare is? To see if I can
I'm not
find
sure
out what it looks like and recognize if I fought it.
I'm not sure that's...
I can't remember.
I'm not sure that's...
All right. Well, I can tell you what Dr. Robotnik does. He is A, because he traps animals in machinery to turn them into metallic foes. No idea what Patches is from Demon or Dark Souls.
Have you played Bloodborne?
Yeah, I played it, but I can't... the name sounds familiar, but I played it years ago, and I think I've suppressed a lot of it.
Yeah.
I want to say the Host of the Nightmare from Bloodborne runs away continually and when cornered one hit kills you, because I feel like that's something I did. I feel like I remember fighting that. And then I guess Patches from Demon and Dark Souls tries to trap you and then kill you and then wants to be friends.
Is that your guess?
Yeah, why not?
Is correct. All three. Patches from Demons Dark Souls tries to trap you, kill you, then be friends. Robotnik traps animals and turns them into metallic foes. And then Host from the Nightmare.
I'm definitely Googling Host of the Nightmare now.
Which one is the cage on his head. Host from the Nightmare runs away continually and then one hit kills you when you're cornered.
Yeah, that was a shit fight. It wasn't difficult, just boring as shit. I wasn't a fan of that one.
So there you have it. That is 5 from 5 after 2 rounds. We're on to round number 3. The characters are as follows. Cactus from Final Fantasy, Booze from Super Mario, not Luigi's Mansion, and Quark from Ratchet & Clank. The descriptions you have to choose from are as follows. A. Hides and are inactive when you're looking at them, then attack when you're not. B. Selfishly takes all the credit while betraying allies to save themselves. Or C. Keep fleeing from battle and are small/evasive.
I know what a cactar looks like from Final Fantasy, but I really can't remember fighting them. Boos are just big ghosts in Mario. Apparently not Luigi's Mansion. And I have no idea what Quark is from Ratchet & Clank. Hides and are invisible when you're looking at them, then attack you when you're not. That sounds like a ghost thing. So I'm going to say that's Boo.
Mm-hmm.
Selfishly takes all the credit whilst betraying allies to save themselves. That sounds like a Quark move. Because I feel like maybe this is a complete guess, but like Quark is a character rather than like an enemy type in Ratchet & Clank.
Mm-hmm.
And then a cactar will keep fleeing from battle and are small and evasive because they are really little.
Those are your final answers?
Yeah.
It is 3 ticks. Those are all correct. Cactus from Final Fantasy, keep fleeing from battle and are small/evasive. Booze from Super Mario, hides and are invincible when you're looking at them, then attacks you when you're not. Quark from Ratchet & Clank selfishly takes all the credit while betraying allies to save themselves. Henry, you've got 8 from 8. I'm not trying to make you nervous or anything. There's only 2 left to go, and you might get 100% if you get them right. It's only a 50-50 chance. Well, actually, you've got 3 described. You've got 2 characters and 3 descriptions here, so
yeah,
slightly different from 50-50. But it's a good chance, Henry. So no pressure. Round 4. Characters are to choose from the following: Grunts from Halo and Summoners from Doom 2016. I got a feeling you're going to get these. Descriptions are as follows. A. Cries out in terror when attacked. B. Surrenders when all nearby allies are killed. Or C. Teleports whenever you get near/hit them.
A grunt cries out in terror when attacked because it's hilarious. And I'm pretty sure Summoners from Doom teleport whenever you get near them.
All right.
I think. I'm quite confident. Well, I think grunts surrender as well. At least in one of the games, I think. But I'll go cries out in terror because they definitely do that for grunts.
Okay. Are you absolutely sure? Think about it carefully.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Let's go through these in order then. Grunts from Halo. Does he cry out in terror when attacked? Yes, absolutely does, Henry. That's 9 from 9. The very last one now. If this is correct, you've got 100%, and you'll get. I don't know. You'll get a
respect.
You get the respect of the community. Yeah. Summoners from Doom 2016. Do they teleport whenever you get near/hit them? Yes, they do, Henry. 10 from 10. Congratulations, sir.
It's been a long time since I scored this highly.
I don't think I ever have. Have I ever done 10 from 10? I don't think I ever.
You must have done 10 out of 10 in the past.
I don't know. Maybe my questions aren't as easy. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm proud of myself because some of these were straight up guesses, and I had to figure it out with a little.
You did well. I 100% will not. I 100% would not have got all those. So congratulations, Henry. You're cleverer than me. Let's move on to the questions this week. And first up is actually Metal Shark. Do you want to take it?
Okay, this is a question for you, apparently. Will you encourage the kids to give Game Builder Garage on Switch a go, which apparently releases on the 11th of June?
Yeah. Well, I did a little research. I put the link in there if you want to take a look. But yeah, it's releasing next month. Oh my God, does this game look good? It's a game about making games, and it's aimed at kids, and the user interface is it's not what you'd expect from a game builder. It's like a drag and drop thing. If you want your your button, like A or B button, to do something particular, you've just got to drag the A button and like highlight it over. It's all laid out. You know, the user interface is really kid friendly, and there's like 6 different lessons that you go through on your quest to learn how to make games, and at the end of it you can create your own game and then share them on the community and play other people's games, and it just sounds like a jolly good time. I think it's priced at like 25 quid. Sack the kids, mate. I'll be playing this one. Absolutely. It looks like something that I would definitely, especially my youngest daughter, she's more creative minded, she's a bit of an artist, she does her own YouTube videos and that. She'd be well into this in terms of she does like making things. So yeah, absolutely. I'll be getting it. I'm pretty sure I'll be getting it, and then seeing if she wants to play it too. It's a good call, that Melshark. Thanks for pointing my attention towards it, because I didn't realise that was a thing, but now I do.
Yeah, looks cute.
Next up, Cloney. I have seen this one TikTok video I quite enjoyed. It asked the question.
I don't believe you. You saw a TikTok video that you enjoyed. That sounds like fake news to me, man.
Yeah, a bit of a question over that. But it asked the question. Cloney continues. It asked the question: if your username / gamertag was $1 billion company, what would it do? My answer was simple: provide cloning services, human or otherwise. What would yours do? Man, I'd love to read the comments on this. What is your gamer tag, Henry?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm Emperor Tic Tac, so I would own the Tic Tac brand.
Yeah.
I don't know how much money they really rake in. I mean, do people like really care about Tic Tacs that much? But hey, they were a thing for a while. You get different flavors and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Make a little bit of money. $1 billion company is a big company. I don't know if it'll be that big, but
yeah.
Well, maybe if I'm the emperor of it, I will turn it into $1 billion company. We will forget about Bitcoin, all that shit. We will now trade in Tic Tacs.
You have a good username. That's, however, completely different to mine. Which mine is like either Pretty Good Gaz, or I think one I used in the past was Agnostic. So I can't even think of anything. Pretty Good Gaz, a company called Pretty Good Gaz. Not even sure that.
A beauty company to make you pretty.
Good. Pretty Good Gaz. Why don't you guys answer it in the comments? If you can think of anything, any $1 billion company named Pretty Good Gaz, that would, what would they sell? What would we do? What would it do? Let us know down in the comments. Thanks for the question.
One here, which isn't a question, but it's a follow-up to a previous question. So, quick update on my kid drunk story. So, this is from a few podcasts ago. Cloney told a story about how when he was, either a kid or young or drunk, we had to figure that out. He ended up clicking on it was like a gambling site or something, and they ended up charging his mum a whole bunch of money. And now, so this is the follow-up to that. I can't really remember it very explicitly. We didn't pay the €60. They didn't have a payment method because we had no contract, so fuck them. Fuck them. Screw 'em. Good little update. Right, now I'll jump. We've got a bunch of questions here from Future Proof. Number 1. If you had to dispose of all your owned tech except one item, what would it be, assuming internet access persists on whatever it is, if it gets internet? So all technology has to be disposed of apart from one thing.
I think the only answer for me would be my MacBook Pro. I do so much on it. I'm literally recording the audio for this now. I do my editing for my YouTube videos on it. And, it's got a camera. I could still record video. I could still do edit. I could literally still do my work. And you can kind of game on it too. Kind of. So I don't think there's a bit of technology that is so versatile as my MacBook Pro, so I'd have to go with that. Easy.
I mean, I'd like to say my PC, but then we're getting this question mark: Does a mouse and keyboard count as separate tech, or is that all part of it? Because I don't just want a PC or say like no monitor.
One item.
One built-in item. Yeah, I'll probably go for the same. The MacBook, it does pretty much everything I need it to do in a nice compact unit.
Yeah.
So that'll be that. Number 2. If you were bedbound for a few months, would you prefer to use a PC through Steam with Remote Play, PS5 Remote Play, Xbox Remote Play, mobile, Stadia/xCloud, etc., so a game streaming thing, or the Switch in handheld mode? The Switch probably is my answer, because I've done that. If I'm like stuck somewhere, I will, where I'm going to be there for a long period of time and not really be able to move, I'll just grab my Switch in handheld.
Yeah, I agree. The remote aspect, it just attracts. I mean, it's just the latency.
It's not good enough.
I don't know. With the hardware not being where you are, it's just not the same for me. There's just something not quite there. I can't even vocalize what it is. But the Switch in handheld mode, quite happy to play that. You've got so many different experiences. You can play The Witcher 3 on it. You can play a bunch of awesome games on it. Why not? Let's do that.
Okay, number 3. As YouTube creators, I'm curious to know your personal top 2 to 3 most watched YouTube channels. Is there a way to find out that exactly? I don't know, but no. I flip-flop all the time. I have a few that I regularly come back to. I virtually don't follow any gaming stuff, though, which may come as a surprise, but it's because I'm already doing it myself.
Yeah. I've got an answer for this. So my number 1 most watched YouTube channel is Philip DeFranco, without a doubt. I've watched him for in excess of 6-7 years, almost every day. And for the times that I drop off, I always come back. I do like his content. After that, the more recent one I've picked up on is like a sci-fi one called Dust, which is like standalone. What's that robots thing on Netflix with this? That's like standalone, like animated stories.
Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah. By the way, the season 2 of that's coming out soon. But it's a bit like Love, Death and Robots if, standalone sci-fi stories, but they're not animated, or they can be animations, and then there's other ones. So Dust, that's a really good one I picked up recently. And I think the other one that I would say that I'd come back to a lot is MKBHD in terms of tech and stuff that I, if I'm researching on tech, he does good videos just in general, never mind about, reviews on tech and stuff. But those would be my top 3 watched YouTube videos, I'd say, in general.
Just scrolling through my subscription feed now, there's a few different things. Some of them I'm like, why haven't I seen you for ages? And then I remember it's because YouTube's bullshit and it doesn't come up, and then you forget that they even exist. But at the moment, I've really been binging a lot of a channel called Cinema Therapy, and it's 2 guys on like a sofa. One of them is a professional, qualified, licensed therapist who helps, is like a relationships focused guy, and then the other guy is a filmmaker, and they basically just watch a bunch of different movies and break down why the psychology of the actors and the screenplay and stuff work, or why it doesn't work, and how you can take that in your life. And I think it's really interesting because they're both massive nerds. Like, they did one about breaking down exactly what the problem is with Anakin Skywalker and like kind of diagnosing his psychological issues. So I think they're really good. They do a really interesting one about Aragorn. I think it was from Lord of the Rings. That was like the first one I saw from them, and they basically say he's the most like macho action hero guy ever, who can cut off an orc's head in 1 second, but then literally in the next moment he'll be crying. Or at his own coronation, where he finally becomes king, he bows to the hobbits and sings a poem because he's such a big softy on the inside, but still a total like war machine when he needs to be. So I think they're really interesting. I really like them. Mr. Sunday Movies is probably my favourite YouTuber around at the moment. He's an Australian guy. He does like comic book and superhero stuff. It's him and one other guy. They do it together, do a podcast as well. Very funny. I've watched him for a long time. And more recently, I guess in like sort of the last 12 months, but he doesn't upload regularly, is Nakey Jakey. Like I only discovered him quite recently, but I've then binged through like everything he watched, and YouTube keeps wanting me to watch it because I'm like, I've already watched your hour-long video essay about The Last of Us 2. I don't need to see it again. I've already watched it twice. But yeah, I think those three are probably it at the moment. Although it flip-flops. It changes quite a lot.
Cool.
And then, what is the next one? Number 4. This should be a quick, easy answer. Have either of you played any more of Cyberpunk?
No.
I haven't.
Not yet. I'm just still waiting.
No.
Still waiting.
I'll go back eventually when the serious patch comes along. So we still haven't had the February patch, and it's now May, right? We've had the little ones, but not the main one.
I'm still waiting for its final form.
Yeah. What upcoming announced games would you choose to get released right now if it were complete and ready, e.g. The Witcher 4, Starfield, The Elder Scrolls 6, GTA 6, etc.? Okay, well, I like that you've caveated this with complete and ready, good to go right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's games I'm really excited for, and I just know I'm gonna like something like the new God of War. Well up for that.
Yeah.
But then I think I'm really interested in to see what Ubisoft are going to do with their Star Wars game. I think that could be really really fun. I'm really excited for Biomutant, so if that wants to release like a couple of weeks early, I wouldn't sniff at that. That'd be sweet. Elder Scrolls 6 is quite a good one. Starfield is quite a good one because I want to know what that is.
You wouldn't waste it on something like Biomutant. You know we're going to get it in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I know. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you've got to choose one which is like so far in the future that you'd benefit greatly from having it today.
I'll tell you what. What's the one? The big space one that's been in development for years and is never coming out.
Star Citizen.
That one. Star Citizen. That'll be the one.
Yeah, or Squadron 42, the single player portion. Yeah, it's a good call. Good call. However, Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6, either of those, absolutely. I definitely picked out those, having loved a lot of. I don't know. I mean, Bethesda are just so hit and miss. A lot of misses recently, and they've done some good stuff in the past, and games that I've got a lot of connection with and still got some fond memories of. So Elder Scrolls 6, Starfield. Starfield. I just want to see what that thing is. I just want to see. I'd go with Starfield.
Okay, now the final one from Future Proof's list of questions. What now dead franchise / individual great game would you resurrect for a sequel if it were made to perfection? Now, made to perfection is a deeply specific thing, but I just want Metal Gear back in my life.
Yeah.
I want good Metal Gear. Give me the gameplay of 5, which was outstanding for the amount of versatility you can do and approach your missions, but with an actual good story that doesn't fucking end halfway through before it even gets started. Kojima has to be involved. If he's not involved in a new Metal Gear, it's not really the same. I feel like I could probably tolerate a remake of an old Metal Gear game without him, but a new one, he has to be involved in some capacity. That's the one. I can't really think of anything else, but I always want Metal Gear back in my life. I always do.
That is a good answer. I don't know. Is it? Trying to look for some inspiration here. I haven't got any. I mean, would it be wrong to say Fallout's a dead franchise? Or
single player Fallout, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say, I can't think of anything, so I'm going to say, please resurrect and bring back from the dead the Fallout franchise, please, Bethesda. I just love my RPGs. Thanks for the questions there. There's 6 of them, Future Proof. My goodness, you rated the vault on that one. Absolutely, tested our wits there. But thank you very much for the contribution. Earthworm Ben is next. Earthworm Ben, get that right. What is your opinion on Sony allowing for crossplay on their system now, yet asking for a royalty to allow this due to potentially lost revenue?
That came from the Epic versus Apple thing, and it's something I kept considering covering, but it was so constantly evolving. I was like, I'm just not going to do it now. I might come back to it later. Yeah, I think it's a
joke. It's a fucking joke. It's an absolute joke.
We were just praising Sony earlier for their good single-player games and their practices. That's great, but they do pull some serious bullshit and get a free pass because of their reputation for making good games. But now that's a joke, man. And it's a serious $1 million figure to get crossplay. Yeah, it's not good.
It disincentivizes the whole thing. Like, if everyone did what they did, crossplay would be a very rare thing. But Microsoft are the opposite. They're like, yeah, let's just open this up to everybody. That's their mentality, and that's how it should be. Like, accessibility for everybody, not in the other way you use accessibility, but more people you're able to play with, the better experience for gamers. It's for the gamers. This is not for the gamers. Yeah. This is for their bottom line. This is for their greed. That's all this is, and it's bad. They shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Okay, next question is from Dayoff. What movie or TV show do you think deserves a game port? By contrast, is there a game you'd love to see become a movie or TV show? Personally, I'd love to see Starship Troopers Roughneck Chronicles get a game adaptation, which was for a kids, and ironically more serious tone, 3D cartoon spin-off of the movie series. I mean, you could have just stopped at Starship Troopers. That first movie is amazing. It's so hilarious satire, so just give me more of that. I didn't even know they did this Roughneck Chronicles thing. There is a lot of potential for a game like that to borrow storytelling and gameplay elements from the Mass Effect and Witcher series, and would star Rico as the playable character. As for a game becoming a series, I have to go with EVE Online, despite never playing it. There are so many stories they could adapt from the game's history, entirely based around player interactions, some this channel has covered. That could have entire seasons just on that alone among the overall arc of the game's inherent lore and storyline. And then there's a follow-up question which we'll get to. The EVE Online thing, I think that's interesting, but as a movie or series, you'd have to tell it not within the game universe. You'd have to tell it from the perspective of players to get these cool stories, and then have some in-game stuff as well. But that could be sweet. I don't know about... one movie I've always thought could have made a really amazing game, and they did talk about it for a while, but ultimately didn't become a thing, is Inception. Because it's so visually spectacular that a game really lends itself to that. But I think it would be quite difficult because it is so visually spectacular and so creative, and the limits of the world are so flexible. Making that within the strict rules of a video game could be quite difficult.
Movie or TV show, easy for me. It's Game of Thrones, without a shadow of a doubt. Every time, third-person action RPG with intrigue system, political system. Throw it in there. Like EVE Online is known for its intrigue and its subplots and its schemes and plots and like power overthrows and stuff like that, and its espionage. Game of Thrones, man. That's what Game of Thrones is at its core, or what makes it amazing. So give me that. Give me Game of Thrones TV show as a game, please, with everything that the TV show includes. Killing direwolves as well if you need to. And it's not very. It's not very great, and let's do it. Why not?
Then, in terms of game into movie, do you have any game into movie ideas? I mean, most of them are shit. Almost all of them are shit.
Yeah.
So I'm quite iffy about that. But it doesn't have to be a live action movie. They're meant to be doing a new anime for Devil May Cry, which would be cool. So if they did an anime movie of Devil May Cry, that'd be pretty sweet. Why not?
Yeah, I mean,
they did an old anime years ago before someone jumps in the comments. Yeah, I know they did it. They're doing a new one.
I know some people might not agree with me, but I really think The Last of Us would make a good movie. I really do. I mean, I know people say, yeah, Logan's like The Last of Us. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it would be good, but I just don't think it's necessary.
No, I agree with you. It's not necessary, but it's got the setting which I like. It's got characters which I love. It's got a world which is just amazing. Some of the themes about transformation, dealing with your past, about trying to better yourself, become, and pitted against the, what do you do what's right for you, for the person that you love, or do you do what's right for like the greater good for the whole of humanity? Mm-hmm. Those are the things that really resonate with me, which has made me love the original game so much. I'm not talking about Last of Us 2, let's forget that even happened. But The Last of Us, the original, would make a great movie, even though that it's not happening because of, we've got a TV show to look forward to. Maybe they'll hit some bases with that one.
Okay, now the second question from Dale. What genre do you think is criminally underrated? A while ago, I'd have said roguelites, but that's been exploding ever since Dead Cells came out on most platforms, I think. MMORPGs are dying right now, I feel, but some of them are still very strong. Any ideas? So when I first kind of glanced over that, skimming it, I was like, as if you're saying roguelites are criminally underrated. They are everywhere now, but then reading further, that's not what you're saying. One of my favourite genres from years ago, and it still is today, but there's just not that many of them. I love hack and slash games.
Yeah.
Like, Devil May Cry was my bread and butter as a kid, and loads of, like, shit movie tie-ins were that. The Force Unleashed games are basically hack and slash games, and they were great. Well, the first one's better story, the second one, better gameplay because he's got more powerful powers, but it's still absurd. And they don't really seem to do them very often anymore. It seems like every melee-based, like, action game seems to be a Souls-like, or has this, like, what do they call it? It's like thoughtful combat, which is basically you get 3 moves and you strafe around the back and hit him in the back. I don't like that. Irrespective of difficulty, Devil May Cry can be very, very difficult. Yeah, I think a lot of them lose style, and I like the motion and the momentum of it, and very few games have come out to get that again. The most recent one that really, other than Devil May Cry 5 itself, the most recent hack and slash game that really elevated it for me was Nier Automata. And I mean, the new one, or new remake one, Replicant, is kind of that, but Automata is still better. But yeah, they just don't really seem to exist anymore, and it makes me sad. So I think for that reason they are criminally underrated. Well, I think it's because they have the general feeling that they don't require any skill or thought. It is just button mashing, and it can be that. But then if you're playing high-level Devil May Cry gameplay, every button input you're pressing is deliberate and thought out, and it's a dance. It's amazing if you can, if it's going well. So needs more love.
This question is tricky, whereas and in terms of what a genre, because games are generated these days, and there's so many genres kind of merge into one. There's so many games with like multiple genres. It's difficult to say this very specific one genre is underrated. My favorite genre, I would say, currently, and has been for a while, is sim games, simulation games. Like, put a bunch of systems together, like self-contained systems together in this game world, and have them interact with one another, and then throw you into the mix. Like, if it's a sandbox, it's even better for me. So a sandbox sim game. I can't say it's underrated. You're looking at games like, I know it's Minecraft, not in the same way, but I mean, I've just searched this in Google, and it's come up as a sandbox sim game. I wouldn't call it a sim game as such. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I get it's systemic, but I wouldn't. It's certainly not a sim.
So that would be, I'd have that. Everything I've just described. Throw that into more games, and just have you exist in a world. Make it an RPG too. If I'm asking, if you're asking, just tick all those boxes for me, and I want more games like that, please. So thanks for those questions, Dayoth. Next one is another one from Cloney, and is it me to read?
Yeah, this is you now.
Okay. Tutorials are too long or restricted access. Tutorials that are too long or restricted access to many abilities is scathing. Final Fantasy XIV, a game I've recently been obsessed with, I guess I have an MMORPG addiction, opens up gradually and over time, giving you new abilities every 5 levels, but also granting you access to cosmetics, gear, dungeons, etc., based on your overall progression in level and story. Other games go forever holding your hand, not letting you shoot your bullets because you'll so need them for the next phase of the game. How long is the perfect tutorial/intro?
I don't know how long, but I can tell you the perfect tutorial is in Far Cry Blood Dragon, because it's super self-aware. It's one of those where you start off with everything, all your powers, everything all at once, and then 5 minutes later it strips it all away.
Yeah.
And you're like a cyborg guy, and it's super meta and breaks the fourth wall. You're voiced by Michael Biehn, who's in Terminator and Aliens, and it's super 80s in camp. And he gets really frustrated that his internal computer thing is not letting him jump, when he's like, I know how to fucking jump, just let me jump. So that was hilarious. I thought, and that was quite short, and it told you everything how to do it, and that plays with genre conventions, which I thought was fantastic. I don't know how long it should take, though.
Yeah, it depends on the genre. It depends on the game.
Skippable.
Yeah,
as well.
Depends on the game. It depends on the genre. I think that some of the worst things that happen in tutorials are when you're just getting a new ability, and it's like you see a bar, you've got to crouch under. You know instinctively, I've got to crouch under that, and then the game pauses, and then it's got like a title to crouch. Or you got to do to crouch. Just press the crouch button. You'll navigate.
The same button it is on virtually every other game.
I don't need to read what a crouch means. Just tell me, just show me what button it is, and let me go through it. And then like a few
your
seconds
aiming
later,
gets more accurate if you aim down sights by holding the left trigger. Try it now.
Those are the most frustrating. It's like I think the best tutorial / intro for me are ones that are integrated seamlessly, that doesn't feel like a tutorial / intro. The gameplay itself, or the game or the story itself, introduces itself to you. You don't feel like you're learning. They do it in a way which is integrated so well. And what I've just described to you there is the opposite, which is where like you get whiplash trauma from the fact that the tutorial's there in your face, slapping you, stopping you from carrying on with the game. That is the worst. So the best is one where you just don't notice it's there.
Yeah. And it's difficult to do, granted, but it's just the better way than a text box that freezes the game or covers up important information. Like you're in the middle of a fight and it's like it gives you a tip that you've already seen before. It's like, I know what I'm doing, Assassin's Creed. You don't need to tell me how to do a heavy attack. I already know.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, we've got one final question here from Lochgar, the pineapple pizza enjoyer, in other words, scum. In light of you playing near Replicant, Dark Hand or Lance, which boss finisher is better? Oh, so when you beat a boss or do like a big moment in a boss, you get like a short cutscene, and you'll use one of your special abilities. So Dark Lance is this magic lance and you throw it at people, or the finisher, it spins them up, and then you fire loads of them up and stabs him like a pincushion. Or Dark Hand, which is a giant fist, and you get a giant fist appears and you punch him. I think for gameplay, Dark Lance is better, but in the cutscene as a boss finisher, Dark Hand's better because he'll either punch him or grab him, this enormous beast, and you're this tiny little boy, and he'll fling it across the map. It's kind of a odd question to end on. It's very, very sort of flat and specific. But hey, that's Dark Hand for finishing bosses, but actual gameplay, I want Dark Lance, please.
There you go. Thank you, everybody, for all your questions in this week's podcast. If you want to ask a question for next week's podcast, head to the relevant channel on the Discord. Leave it there. We'll pick it up and we will answer it. It is time now to move on to the next segment, which is the Triggered Fanboy Comment of the Week. And this week's Triggered Fanboy, although it's not a fanboy, still triggered, was on last week's podcast. Alfonso got this as title, and this is the comment. Misleading about the story stuff is okay. I mean, have you thought about it? Yeah, I'd say that makes you a little bit of a hypocrite. It's not a grey area, it's a lie made on purpose, like all lies, to manipulate people into buying the game. Making good marketing means showing the best aspects of your game or under the best light. It is not the same as lying. Lying is not good marketing. It is not. I am sorry, but no. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that bothers me, being dishonest. It doesn't matter if I like the result or not. I hate dishonesty. And you should too. It will come back to bite you.
So this is about. Can we not go a week without talking about The Last of Us 2, please?
No, we can't. Yeah, it was the Last of Us 2 where I did say it's a bit of a grey area because he's not outright lying, and that's my definition, right? And I think what Alfonso misses here is that in my definition, it was implied that it was a lie. It wasn't an outright lie. He thinks it's an outright lie. I think that's what the grey area is, right? That's literally the definition. You're discounting my opinion, which is in essence blinding you, right? I think the other point to bring up was you're discounting the fact that they're doing it just to lie. They may be doing it to the reason they maybe done that, which we didn't kind of touch on last week, was to set people's expectations so that when they play the game themselves, that they still get that holy shit, because you don't want to be spoiled in the trailer, that's for sure. You don't want to say that Joel, this happens to Joel, this is going to happen. You don't want that to be known. So to set expectations in one way so that when you're experiencing the game, you get that holy shit moment, I wasn't expecting this at all. That's what the payoff was, right? And that's maybe, I'm not saying it was, this is my a possible other motivation for this lying, as you term it. This is maybe why they did that, not to try and sell more. They knew the game was doing well. They didn't need to lie in order to have the game sell. Maybe, just maybe, this is why they did it. Set expectations, people's expectations in one direction, so that when that sledgehammer moment or that golf club moment comes, it smacks you in the face and it takes you in a whole different, and it gives you that experience that they want you to have. Maybe that's what they did. And the fact that you're choosing to discount that option, that possibility, saying that it's definitely not a grey area, it's definitely like this, it shows a little bit of ignorance on your part. Maybe things are different to the way you think they are.
And just to quickly touch on the important event, I mean, well, we've sort of spoiled it anyway, but by this point, who even gives a shit?
Yeah, who gives a shit?
When Joel is killed by Abby in The Last of Us, you are supposed to be angry about it. You are supposed to be angry. You are supposed to be pissed off. That's the point. That's why it is so... I know this isn't really to do with this comment. He's not like ranting about it. He's ranting about marketing and whatnot. But I think but you're supposed to be angry that Joel was killed. Like,
yeah,
I think a lot of people seem to miss that. It's a bit of a tangent to anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many people miss that. You're meant to be annoyed. You're meant to not like it. You can then... The idea is that hopefully you come around on Abby, and that's where the game largely fails. If you don't like it, that's where it failed for you generally. But a lot of people still really, really like it because they did come around on Abby. But yeah, and I said it in the podcast, and he touches on it in his comment. If it makes me a hypocrite to say that I don't mind being lied to about story stuff in a game that misled, I don't believe that was a lie, then that's absolutely fine. I don't care. They're not lying about gameplay stuff. It's story stuff, and story stuff is all open to interpretation anyway. Much more so than gameplay. Gameplay's gameplay. You either like it or you don't. But then, when it comes to story stuff, there's different readings of it. I've got nothing more to say.
I mean we have beaten
Alfonso. You comment a lot, so we're not trying to slight you or anything. But
it's just a difference of opinion.
I just don't agree. I just don't agree.
Yeah.
It's not a lie.
That's fine. It's a difference of opinion. It's a difference of whether you think it's right. I can understand if you hate dishonesty, how this would trigger you. I can understand how if you think they lied just to get you to buy the game, that you would be angry about this. I don't
believe they lied.
Yeah, I do hate dishonesty. That's true, but I don't judge this scenario the same way as you do, and I leave open the possibility that maybe their motivations weren't just to sell more games, that their motivation was to set people's expectations on.
It's a twist.
And
it's a twist.
Yeah. I don't see that as the way you do. It doesn't mean your opinion's not valid, and it doesn't mean that.
No.
Yeah,
and we acknowledge that in the video itself.
Yeah, there you go. So, Alfonso, congratulations, you are our triggered fanboy comment of the week, although it wasn't a fanboy. Well, maybe he was a fanboy of the original game. I don't know. But yeah, congratulations. Let's move on to other YouTube comments that maybe weren't quite so triggered, but are worthy of talking about anyway. Have you got any?
Yes, so I've got one here, which is the podcast extract about the Resident Evil review roundup, about Lady Dimitrescu. Ooh, apparently we do say her name. I've heard so many conflicting reports, and a few people commented on it, which I like. So I like. This is a good kind of correction. This person specifically, I'm going to read out. Rai the Noblesse. Yeah, her name is pronounced so he spelled it with two I's, so D as opposed to Dim. Dimitrescu, Ckou, like cuckoo from a cuckoo clock. So Dimitrescu. Very well. I have from Romania, Transylvania, and Carpathian roots. Sorry for the 100 edits. I was first confusing the English and German pronunciation. I live in a German-speaking area. I like this comment because it's not. Actually, it's pronounced like this. Some dipshit. And there were a couple of comments who were like, oh yeah, this is how you say it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. So I quite like that. It was a much more pleasant way to go about it. Than what could have been.
Cool. My first comment is from Stephen M. And this is on the funniest story of this week, which is the calculator £10 on the Nintendo Switch store. Ridiculous. His comment is as follows. Those maths puns at the end did not subtract from my enjoyment of the show. In fact, it perfectly added to it, multiplied it even. I know some people are divided when it comes to puns, but everyone is equal to their own opinion.
Nice, you got equals in there as well. I like that. Well, on the same sort of note, from S Clone, you summed up that last joke, didn't you, Henry? So
yeah,
I like because I like that people watched all the way to the end and then they got a little reward with enjoying these puns. And I got Cintron saying those math puns made me lol IRL. So someone actually laughed out loud at a joke I made, which is it's all you want in life.
You might get pronunciations wrong, but you get the puns right. The most important bits.
Oh, another one. Michael Villis. Oh no, the puns are multiplying. Is this a new addition or subtraction to the Daily Triple? What can we sum up from these new developments?
They love it. They love it.
It's wonderful. Bad dad jokes, even in your Daily Triples. So I got this one here, which I thought it's a real snarky little bitchy little comment in the way it's toned from the Biomutant podcast extract, which out of nowhere got way better views than anything else ever, and it was such a throwaway conversation, so you never know what the hell YouTube is going to pick up.
It really was a random conversation, and lo and behold, it's the best viewed video for months.
Yep. But I think that's maybe what works, because it was so authentic and spontaneous. But anyway, so this person, QZZZ, so a cut from a podcast is to try and earn money twice from the same content on YouTube. And then, fortunately, Gaz came back, so read it to anyone who didn't catch it. Such a bad take. So, 4 points. Some people don't like long-format videos and never watch the podcast, but would watch an excerpt like this, which is proven by the fact the podcast has like a few hundred views. This video extract has like 10,000 or something.
It's 15.
The shortest videos... Yeah. The shortest videos work well for the YouTube algorithm. The podcast extract acts as promotion for the podcast channel, sending people there to watch. The podcast is not currently monetized. So we're not earning double money because this video is the only one that earned any money. It probably earned more money than anything else.
Everything else combined this week.
But yeah, I just think it's such a snarky little bitchy way to phrase it. Some people have asked genuine questions. At least the tone seems to be more like that. Saying things like, oh, why have you move the podcast over here because they missed it when we first did it or something. Something perfectly normal, but there's this little quiz, little bitch. Oh, look at you trying to earn money twice. Eat shit. You don't know anything.
It's funny because it's the reason we moved the podcast to the other channel. It was to get. I looked at the historical click-through rate on the videos and the watch time average, and those are the two biggest metrics that YouTube decides which videos to share. So if you're on a channel that has a low click-through rate or a low average watch time, then it won't recommend your videos, right? So this is an experiment in some regard. The average watch time on a podcast on the main channel is so low because everyone's coming here for the daily triples, right? So you might get 5% average watch on an hour and a half podcast. Putting that on a different channel separates that off, which makes our average watch time over the whole channel go highly, which in turn should help YouTube recommend our videos more often, which, funny as it should happen, is exactly the case what happened on this video, the video that he's commenting on.
Just that one.
So I don't know if it's irony or whatever it is, it's just poetic justice that the thing he's complaining about what we did is actually working, and then that's probably the reason why he's there, because he found it in the YouTube recommended algorithm, which is the exact reason why we moved everything over in the first place and used extracts. So I mean, don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's just how it is.
It couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, couldn't be more wrong.
It's one of the most YouTube comments ever. It's just coming in, having no idea what he's talking about, and then fucking off again, and like leaving the grenade and not responding to anything else. Okay, well, I think when you see comments like that, they must just post so many other ones. Just what compels you to say something like that? I don't get it.
Yeah, I've got a kind of one I disagree with, and the one that's funny. So I'll go with the one I disagree with first. Sorlex comments. And then starts with quotes. Pay to win Ubisoft XP, IMO, XP in single-player PvE games is not pay to win. It has to be competitive for you to win. You don't win in single-player games. Cosmetics in Fortnite are more pay to win than XP in Assassin's Creed, in my opinion.
What in the world are you talking about? What?
He said IMO. He gets out of jail for this, right? He says, in his opinion, he's entitled to his opinion. However, 100%
I'm entitled to think it's a stupid opinion.
Yeah, we don't. And in my opinion, that is not correct. That is 100% not correct. You do win single player games. It just because there's no opponents, real world opponent, doesn't mean you can't win.
You complete the game. You get to the end. You beat the final boss.
What do you call that?
Right?
If it's not winning,
like, why are we playing games then if we're not doing that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And so, what does he say? Fortnite cosmetics is more pay to win.
Yeah, because you can get like
black outfits which actually disguise you, and that's camouflage. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
But most of them are ridiculous, colourful bullshit that people like to wear. Nah.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It's just
a hard no from me. In my opinion,
it is his opinion, and he's entitled to it. We, however, feel differently, and that's fine. People have different opinion, but yeah, definitely, you do pay to win in single-player games. Absolutely. Okay,
I've got one more here. Oh no, I did have another one that I was going to finish on, but I'll do this one first and then track down that other one. So this is from, is it yesterday's video? No, Tuesday's. Film director claims RE8 stole his design. So there's a monster in Resident Evil 8, which looks remarkably similar to this other one from this old horror film from like 2013, I think. And this person comments, which summed up my exact feelings when I started this. James Denton. I rolled my eyes at the guy saying they ripped him off until I saw it and I was like, okay, yeah, that's a pretty specific idea and pretty close. It's real close.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a monster. It's a big, hulking, ugly thing with a propeller for a head. It's quite gruesome and graphic, but it's exactly the same amount of propellers, although just a quick correction, the Resident Evil version actually has chainsaws on it, so whoa. Also think the Resident Evil version, he's got like stumpy arms, he doesn't have full arms. But yeah, it's straight up the same thing. I don't know if any actual legal things will happen. I quite doubt it, especially as the guy who created the monster, he doesn't own the monster, it's the production company of the film that owns the rights to it and all that, so that's a bit figgledy. But yeah, I mean, they wholesale straight up just took his design, or by chance it just happens to look exactly the fucking same.
Yeah, the chances of that are remote, I'd say. The chances of the Resident Evil villain existing if the other one hadn't have existed are, again, pretty remote if you ask me.
Slim, yeah.
So my very last comment is probably my favourite one this week. Wesker Hood. Great name. He comments this. I managed to get a PlayStation 5 on eBay for £500. Is that a good deal? And the reason I find this so funny, it's like he's like baiting us. Like it's like I got. Look what I got. He's not only is he bragging, he's also looking for validation. It's like what my kids do. Like it's like I painted this picture of a dinosaur. Is that good, Dad? It's like, obviously, you know it's fucking good. You don't need us to say it's good. You're just sitting there fishing, waiting for the good compliments.
Did I do well? Yeah, the picture goes on the fridge.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Of course I'm going to say it's good. I'm your dad. Of course I'm going to say it's good. And getting a PlayStation 5 on eBay for £500, like half the price of what most people get. You know that's a good. You don't need us to tell you, Wesker. You know that's good. You don't need us to say how good you're. Well done. That is amazing. That is the best deal I've ever seen on eBay. Is that what you want, Wesker? Is that what you're looking for? Well, you got it. Okay.
I'm still. There it is. I found the nice one, which will finish up beautifully. From, oh god, Unka Buchal, I'm going to say, and this is from the Bio music video. Just a nice, pleasant one. I think you guys are the best. Concise, honest, and real nerds. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
that's the bullet points we try to hit. Efficient and concise, and yeah, everything in one place. Honest, I'm not going to lie to you. Like a bloody Last of Us trailer, am I right, Alphonse? And yeah, we're just nerds, you know. We like what we like.
There you go. I'm honoured to be to be called a nerd. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. And that concludes our comments section for this week's podcast. Let's move on to our final segment of this podcast, which is the bad dad joke of the week. Okay, this is one of my favourites from this week. Marcus Hicks. A man died after drinking Vanish. It was a terrible end, but what a beautiful finish. That was one of the favorites. Thanks to you for that, Marcus Hicks. Metal Shark contributed one, or a couple. Just a quick note to say thanks everybody for all the wonderful birthday cards and money yesterday, and to Royal Mail for giving me the job. That's a good one. And I think Tons, this is again one of my favourites for this week. Tons says, it's inappropriate to make a dad joke if you're not a dad. It's a faux pas.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You like 2 of them, so...
well, I have heard that one before, so...
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You get fewer points for that.
Yeah, fewer points for that. But a good crop this week, and you know, if you've got any decent dad joke, a lot submitted this week. But thank you everybody who does contribute to that too, and nothing left to say but thanks for watching this podcast, and thanks for supporting us over on patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. And that's it. On behalf of Henry and myself, we'll see you again in the next podcast. Until that time, bye for now.